is the active student engagement day, day 4, and we are starting off with our PowerPoint strategies here, the objectives, and the procedures. So this is all the same. And so then the first thing we're going to do with our students is to create a T-chart that's also in the packet. One side is passive, one side is active. They're going to describe what a passive student would look like and then what an active student would look like. So again, we're trying to activate their prior knowledge by doing this activity. And then what is active student engagement? So we define it, have another quote, and then give them the research behind it. Again, huge percentile gain when students are really actively engaged. And we come back to what we did this on Monday, the first day, and again, we're talking about when kids are actively engaged, they're learning between 70 and 90% of what's going on versus here at the top. And then we have a quote. And so now we're going to ask them to think about the quote and the cone of learning and what ahas are you having, what questions turn to your partner and discuss. That's a think, pair, share. And then we're going to give them some more research. So what we know is that typically reading, viewing a video or lecture is really passive. And so here we're going to introduce again the 10-2 rule, that after 12 to 15 minutes of a lecture, we need to stop for 2 minutes and have the students do something with that information. In the pre-training, again, we had active viewing and an active reading article. And so I would suggest, again, that you have them read this. You could have them read it now and then go to this activity. They're going to turn to their partner and recap that active strategy they did during the pre-training. Here's a double entry journal. And what this is that it's almost a T-chart. The left-hand side is key points from an article, a film, a chapter. And this is the response. What did it mean to you? What kind of connections are you making? It can be written by the teacher or the student, and the idea is you agree, disagree, you answer the questions, interpret it, or react. So we're going to give them an example of this. So here is student achievement increases with student engagement. What's their response to that? And increasing students' achievement doesn't have to be difficult. What's their response to that? And then they can put a question here or a statement here and respond to themselves. So that gives them the idea of the double entry journal. And that is a handout. You also have an example of a math journal here. So they can see that it can be done in multiple settings in the content area. The next strategy is pass that question. This is really a fun thing for kids to do. They're going to write a question from the lecture on an index card and then pass it to their neighbor to answer. So here's a question. Think about active student engagement and what we have discussed so far. Write a question on your index card that comes from the lecture or from your own background knowledge, and write the answer on the back. So you're going to have the participants pass that question. They're going to pass it to the left. They're going to read the question and answer it, and then go back to that person who gave them the card and check to see if they agree. Okay? This is a fun thing to do also as a reversal, is that you either, instead of writing the question, they write the answer. And so an example would be in mathematics, I could write the number 25. And if I got that, I sent it on to the person next to me. They could write a word problem, they could write an equation or something that ends up adding up or multiplying or whatever to the number 25. In science, I could write the word magma. And the student that I passed it to would have to then write a question. What is something? So there you go. Just another way of doing that. Here, the next couple of slides are now talking about passive to active, and how you can get that to happen is by moving from covert to overt behavior. So covert is the behaviors that we cannot observe. We talked about those non-observable behaviors in our issue of writing objectives. Think about, remember, summarize. So this is really the thinking that you want the students to do. And then you're going to follow up that thinking part of the question with a doing. So write, draw, explain. So you do a covert plus an overt. We'll make it a thinking and doing question. So here's an example. You have English, you have an example in social studies. And here it is as a graphic organizer. When you have a covert plus an overt equals an engagement. So now we're going to have them do a say something, another activity. They're going to stand up and go to their Cape Coast person and recap the information on covert and overt. Again, be thinking about that. That is the 10-2 rule. You just gave them a lot of information and we're stopping to get them to think and apply that information. Now we're going to again have another pause where they end up writing this on their chart. The next piece that goes with this is graphic organizers, which are they're so powerful. And so we want to give them a couple of examples, and there's quite a few in your, again, your handouts that we sent you. So here's just a typical one out of the science textbook, unit on cells. And so we just gave them a graphic organizer so that as they read, they can collect the information and be more, again, this helps them with their comprehension, to be more actively engaged in their reading. Here's another example, and again, you have more in your packet. From here, we move into the foldables, and I know this is an area that we kind of have to keep on kind of revisiting a little bit. This is the matchbox, called the matchbox. It has a level down at the bottom, and so the paper is folded just about an inch from being halfway, if that makes sense. And it's a 3-fold on this one. And remember, we did this on day 1 when we talked about formative and summative assessment, and it was only cut into 2 pieces instead of the 3. Here's an example of one on mathematics for angles. Here's a definition of what foldables are. And now what we have in the next couple of slides is examples. And this just gives them a quick, some easy ones to do. And so this is the directions on the layered book. They're going to stack 2 pieces of paper together. One is going to be a tad bit higher than the other, and then you fold them. And that's going to allow it to be those 4 different sheets of paper, tabs that they can open up and then write about underneath it. Then this is the 3 tab, which is what we just saw on the mean, median, and mode example. So those are just a couple of the foldables that we will do with them. Inside-outside circle is a fabulous strategy. Students stand in 2 concentric circles and rotate after each question. They're facing each other in this example. So the yellow is the inside circle facing the purple, and the purple are looking at the yellow. The teacher's in the middle, and I don't think we have any questions on this, but I would suggest you all creating questions and going outside. I think you all remember doing this. Going outside and writing and asking questions of the participants over what's been happening over the last 3 days, and they answer them, and it's just a real fun way of doing a review. Exit cards is another way to kind of end a lesson and collect that formative assessment. Here's an example of an algebra one. You can just kind of ask a couple of questions from that day's lecture and collect that, and it'll tell you what you need to review tomorrow. But it also means holding your kids accountable to what you just got through doing, that they know at the end of the period they're going to have to give you an exit card, and you're going to have to check to see what they know or don't know. So here's an exit card for these folks. They're going to define active learning, why it is important, and 3 active strategies that we learned today. So that will give them an experience of an exit card. So then they're going to take a moment and fill out their chart. And then the closure for today's lesson is they're going to turn to their partner and summarize their learning from this morning. And that wraps up day 4. All right, thanks.